You're listening to Full Circle Weekly News, news of the open source community presented by Full Circle Magazine. These articles are compiled by Eric the Unready, and I'm your host, Moss Bliss. This is episode 392, covering week 45, November 4th through 10th, 2024. Tizen Studio 6.0, an SDK and development environment for creating, assembling, debugging, and profiling mobile applications for the Tizen platform using Web API and Native API is out. The development environment is built on the latest release of the Eclipse platform, has a modular architecture, and allows you to select and install only the necessary functionality at the installation stage or through a special package manager. Plugins for development using VS Code and the Visual Studio integrated environment are also provided. Tizen Studio includes a set of Tizen-based device emulators for smartphone, TV, and smartwatches, a set of training examples, tools for developing applications in C and C++ and using web technologies, components for providing support for new platforms, systems, application, and drivers, utilities for building applications for Tizen RT based on the RTOS kernel, and tools for creating applications for smartwatches and TVs. Neth Security 8.3 has been published. Neth Security is a distribution for creating network firewalls based on the Neth server platform and designed for quick deployment. In addition to packet filtering, it provides capabilities for detecting and preventing intrusions, antivirus scanning, ad blocking, prioritizing different types of traffic, deep packet inspection, and content filtering. Neth Security can also selectively block Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and other services in a corporate network to lessen employee distractions. The platform is built for installation on physical servers and virtual machines, as well as for creating bootable USB drives that turn any computer into a firewall. It supports the creation of tunnels via IPsec and OpenVPN, deployment of wireless access points, and operation via several external internet connection channels. The FFmpeg project developers reported the implementation of new assembler optimizations where, thanks to the use of the AVX512 instruction set, it is possible to speed up some operations used in video decoding. The performance increase of the assembler code with AVX512 instructions was 94, 44, 64, and 4.24 times compared to the basic implementation written in C without using SIMD instructions. In the assembler code with optimizations based on AVX2 instructions, the increase was 67, 27, 55, and 4.38 times respectively, and based on SSSE3 instructions, 40, 21, 29, and 2.49 times. The changes were added to the David library, which offers an alternative decoder for the AV1 video encoding format. AVX512 instructions are available in AMD processors based on the Zen 4 and 5 microarchitectures, and in Intel processors based on microarchitectures such as Skylake X, Ice Lake, Tiger Lake, and Rocket Lake. An updated, a specialized Dog Linux distribution build, a Debian Live CD in the style of Puppy Linux, has been published. It is based on Debian 12 and is intended for testing and servicing PCs and laptops. The distribution includes applications such as GPU Test, Unigen Heaven, CPU X, G-Smart Control, Gparted, PartImage, PartClone, Test Disk, DD-Rescue, WHDD, and DMDE. The distribution allows you to check the performance of the equipment, load the processor and video card, check Smart HDD and NVMe SSDs. The LXQT 2.1.0 desktop environment is out, continuing the development of the LXDE and Razer Qt projects. The LXQT interface follows the idea of the classic desktop layout, but introduces a more modern design and techniques that increase convenience. LXQT is positioned as a lightweight, modular, fast, and convenient environment that has absorbed the best features of LXDE and Razer Qt. The code is posted on GitHub and is supplied under the GPL 2.0 Plus and LGPL 2.1 Plus licenses. The appearance of ready-made builds is expected for Ubuntu, Arch Linux, Fedora, OpenSUSE, Mageia, FreeBSD, etc. The new version continues the work on implementing full support for the Wayland protocol. A new component, LXQT-Wayland-Session, has been added to the composition, allowing you to run LXQT in combination with various Wayland composite managers. The ability to select the desired composite manager has been added to the session settings. Support is provided for LabWC, Wayfire, Kwin_Wayland, Sway, Hyperland, River, and Neri. By default, the X11-based environment continues to be offered, and the Wayland-based session is classified as experimental. kwin_Wayland is currently the only composite manager supported in the panel for switching virtual desktops and in the power management interface for turning off the monitor. Visual effects for the desktop are available when choosing kwin_Wayland, Wayfire, or Hyperland. The screensaver can be used with the Waylock, Swaylock, Hyperlock, and kwin_Wayland composite servers. Firewall D 2.3 has been released, implemented as a wrapper over the NF tables and IP tables packet filters. Firewall D runs as a background service, allowing dynamically changing packet filter rules via dbus without the need to reload packet filter rules and without breaking established connections. The project is already used in many Linux distributions, including RHEL 7+, Fedora 18+, and SUSE/OpenSUSE 15+. The Firewall D code is written in Python and distributed under GPL v2 license. The firewall is managed by the Firewall-CMD utility, which creates rules based on service names, not on IP addresses, network interfaces, or port numbers. The GTK Firewall-config graphical interface or the Qt Firewall-applet can also be used to change the firewall configuration. Support for managing the firewall via the dbus API Firewall D is available in projects such as Network Manager, libvirt, Podman, Docker, and Fail2Ban. WebOS Open Source Edition 2.27 is out, which can be used on various portable devices, boards, and in-car infotainment systems. Raspberry Pi 4 boards are considered as a reference hardware platform. The platform is developed in a public repository under the Apache 2.0 license, and the development is supervised by the community, adhering to a collaborative development management model. The Lima 1.0 toolkit has been released. It has grown into a universal toolkit for running Linux virtual machines on various operating systems. Lima can be used on macOS, Linux, Windows, and BSD systems. The key goal of the project is to provide an easy way to run arbitrary Linux distributions in isolated containers or virtual environments, while providing automatic network port forwarding and file sharing. The project code is written in Go and is distributed on the Apache 2.0 license. To run an isolated Linux environment in Linux and BSD systems, Runtime Containerd and various container isolation engines can be used. In macOS, QEMU with the HVF accelerator or the standard macOS virtualization toolkit virtualization.framework is used. To run Linux environments in Windows, the WSL2 layer is used. You can run Linux distributions built for the x86-64 architecture on host systems with the ARM64 architecture and vice versa. In experimental mode, there is support for the RISC-V64 and ARM32 architectures. For quick deployment of environments, templates are provided, prepared for various versions of Alma Linux, Alpine, Arch Linux, Debian, Fedora, Gentoo, OpenSUSE, Oracle Linux, Rocky, and Ubuntu distributions. To build your own system image, use BuildKit. The ability to use Lima to launch Linux environments is integrated into the Finch, Rancher, Colima, and Podman desktop toolkits. A proprietary Lima GUI is being developed, written using Qt. GIMP 3.0 RC1 has been announced. The date of the final release has not yet been determined and will depend on the activity of user testing and the problems identified. Most likely a second release candidate will be formed before the final release. Ready-made builds of GIMP 3.0-RC1 are formed for Linux as Flatpak, Windows, and Mac OS. Due to the length of time in development since the last stable version, the developers have reformed the release process and are moving to a more predictable and frequent schedule of publishing new stable branches. In preparing the next major release, the developers will try not to push any major changes at once, but will try to focus on polishing individual new features. The next major branch, GIMP 3.2, is planned to be published about a year after the release of GIMP 3.0. Key improvements in GIMP 3.0 include the move to the GTK3 library and a CSS-like style definition system, native support for Wayland and HiDPI, a new design theme, a significant interface modernization, basic support for the CMYK color model, significant code-base cleanup, a new API for plugin development, rendering caching, support for multi-layer selection, the ability to edit in the original color space, a brush stroke selection tool, a built-in extension manager, an automatic layer expansion mode, editing outside the canvas, improved import and export in PSD format, support for the JPEG XL format, a non-destructive editing mode, a significant modernization of the color management code, and improved support for graphics tablets and light pens. BlackBerry QNX has made its real-time microkernel operating system freely available for non-commercial use, and also announced the start of QNX 8.0 system image generation for Raspberry Pi 4 and 5 boards. The Developer Relations Manager noted that the company is moving towards greater openness and transparency, but he cannot yet say anything about the timing of such changes. In 2007, an initiative was launched to open source QNX under a license that allowed modifications. The code for the QNX Neutrino microkernel, file systems, system library, drivers, micro GUI, network stack, and utilities included in the package were published in the public domain. In 2010, Research in Motion, the owner of the BlackBerry brand, acquired QNX Software Systems, after which the code publication ceased. Currently, QNX open source initiatives are limited to a repository in GitLab, which contains ports of open source applications for QNX, frameworks, components for the QNX hypervisor, and sample applications. The G-Smart Control 2.0 project has been released. It develops a graphical interface for the SmartMon Tools toolkit, allowing you to monitor the status of drives that support self-monitoring, analysis, and reporting technology, or SMART. It supports operation on PATA and SATA drives, NVMe drives, USB converters, and some RAID controllers. The project code is written in C using the GTK library and is distributed under the GPL 3.0 license. The program allows you to run internal tests of the drive's performance and inspects the results of their execution. In addition, such functions as enabling/disabling SMART, generating reports and detecting anomalies, setting up device-specific SMART parameters, and displaying detailed information about the drive are available. Reports can be generated either by accessing the drive or by loading a text file in which the output of the SmartCTL command was saved on another system. The build is supported on Linux, Windows, Mac OS, FreeBSD, and other BSD systems. The new release is notable for adding support for NVMe drives and switching to the JSON format when parsing the output of the SmartCTL utility. The code has been refactored and switched to using the features proposed in the C++17 and C++20 standards. The AutoTools toolkit has been replaced with the CMake build system. The interface uses icons from the Oxygen set instead of Crystal. The UBports project has released the OTA 6 Focal firmware. This is the sixth release of Ubuntu Touch based on the Ubuntu 20.04 package base. Ubuntu Touch OTA 6 Focal update will be rolling out in the coming days to Asus Zenfone Max Pro M1, FX Tech Pro 1X, Fairphone 3, 3 Plus, and 4, Google Pixel 3a and 3a XL, Jingpad A1, OnePlus 5, 5T, 6, and 6T, OnePlus Nord N10, 5G, and N100, Sony Xperia X, Voluphone X/22/X23, and Xiaomi Poco X3 NFC/X3. Debian 12.8 has been generated, which includes accumulated package updates and adds fixes to the installer. Among the changes in Debian 12.8, we can note the update to the latest stable versions of Systemd, ClamAV, DPDK, Galera-4, Intel Microcode, OpenSSL, and Wireshark. For downloading and installing from scratch, installation builds of Debian 12.8 are prepared. Systems installed earlier and maintained in the current state receive updates present in Debian 12.8 through the standard update installation system. Security fixes included in new Debian releases are available to users as updates are released through the security.debian.org service. The release of the Classic Toolkit iptables 1.8.11 for managing the iptables packet filter has been published. The development has recently been focused on components for maintaining backward compatibility, iptables-nft and ebtables-nft, providing utilities with the same command line syntax but translating the received rules into nftables bytecode. The original set of iptables programs, including ip6 tables, arptables, and ebtables, was deprecated in 2018 and has already been replaced by nftables in most distributions. You've been listening to Full Circle Weekly News. For more details, see the next issue of the magazine at fullcirclemagazine.org or check the links in the show notes. You can contact me at bardmoss@pm.me. I'll see you next week.